Hey, and welcome to another episode of the Antisocial Gaming Club podcast. Today we're talking about the Crew 2 closed beta that happened over the first weekend in June. And I think that it's important to remember that it is a closed beta. It's not by any means an indication of what the final game is set to look like. And that is one of the very first screens that you get when you load into the game. I know Nick930 made a video comparing the Crew 1 to the Crew 2 closed beta and had a lot of negative stuff to say about how the game looked and how it handled and how the Crew 1 was better, and I think in his opinion he did not enjoy the Crew 2 closed beta, which is fine. It's not for everyone. I definitely do think that this game is the Need for Speed killer. Arcade racing is a genre that a lot of companies have moved away from. So when you look at stuff like Drive Club and you look at Gran Turismo and you look at Forza and stuff like that, you're looking at companies that are making driving experiences that are incredibly real and that afford you the opportunity to drive in vehicles that ordinarily you wouldn't be able to. Not all of us are Little Tay. That being said, the Crew has definitely plugged itself into the space that Need for Speed players wanted with Payback and were not given. Need for Speed Payback was an incredibly disappointing game. The Crew 2 closed beta plays a lot like GTA 5. If you were a fan of the mechanics of the game in GTA 5 and you enjoyed the way that your vehicle's handled and you enjoyed being able to just jump in a car, jump on a bike, get in a truck, get in a sports car, that's what this game is. The storyline has been dropped and there were insular stories. So when you would go and do one of the disciplines like street racing, then there would be a little story about it. Or when you would go do off-road, there would be a little story about it, obviously because you were supposedly borrowing a car from someone. They plugged it that way. There was like a little story to it in the first couple missions that you had to do, which were also really short. I think it was like 10 minutes. And then that first little mission segment was over, which is great because I'm pretty sure that you're going to have to play this first segment of the game again when the full release comes out. So the Crew 2 closed beta is an open world scenario with no storyline, and it requires you to always be online. Whether you play or not, something is always happening in the game, which means records are being set, records are being broken, your friends could be setting records without you, you can be setting records without them. If you play PvP, you can play races together, race against each other, race with each other, explore the world together. And also it plays a little bit like Destiny 2's mechanic, where if the requirement is get place in the top 3 and one of you finishes in the top 3, then you all get loot for it. I think that the payout is different. I think that the person who finished higher gets a better loot than the other players would do who finish later or lower in the ranking. It's a very cooperative way of playing.
I had a bit of an accident.
Oopsie. So money, loot and races in this game are spread across the map. There's a thing called live events, which is a little radar system that beeps on your car. So you open the box and inside the box are parts. Well, I got parts out of mine, and depending on which vehicle you open it with, you get parts for that vehicle. It's a nice little bonus and it's a cool little thing to look out for, and I think it really encourages you to explore the map because this map is massive. It's a map of North America that stretches coast to coast, and obviously there's particular attention paid to specific cities. In the closed beta, it didn't look like it was all the cities because there were a couple up in the top that looked like they were still going to be developed or worked into the final game in some way.
And where did you go? You're over there to my left. Oh shit, maybe accelerate this thing.
So I know that the Crew in 2014 had its own set of issues, and it was released at a time when arcade racing was coming out of its shell, and there were a lot of racing titles coming out. Drive Club was out, the Crew was out, Need for Speed was coming out. It was competing to find its place in the market, and I think that now, despite all of the hassles that it had, this game very, very definitely has its foot in the door. There is no two ways about it. I got to play closed beta with a couple of my friends, and we got to go through some of the events together, and this is what some of this gameplay is now. It's us just exploring the world together, switching between cars, switching between vehicles. That mechanic is really cool and really slick, very easy to pull off. You favorite a vehicle, so you'll go to your garage, choose your favorite car, and then when you do that quick switch between the three vehicle types, it will give you your favorite one that you've chosen. What I did notice in the beta at least was that there were far more cars than there were bikes, boats and planes, which is fine because it is a beta. It's supposed to give us an idea of what we can expect. The catalogue of cars in the closed beta itself is immense though. The supercars, ultra cars, the Red Bull Formula 1 car so much. Motorcycles, the mechanics of the motorcycles that need you to balance and lay off the throttle and control the throttle. This game has had a lot of work put into it. This game is definitely on my must-buy list for 2018. There is no way that I could see this release slipping by me.
But I see, that's why I think like some of those records guys have been playing non-stop, or like since yesterday when the dates came.
Something that I like a lot already in the closed beta is the brevity of customization in the game. While visual customizations for this maybe not like quite as deep as I would have expected from an arcade racer like this, it does afford you the opportunity to customize your cars and vehicles in ways that I haven't seen before. I didn't really play the Crew one in 2014. Already with this game, I can see that the mechanic is pretty much the same as Destiny. You get parts that are common, rare, almost like exotics. And then you can dismantle parts to make space in your loadouts. So you'll have cars that give you different perks, like one will give you more radar for when you're looking for the live event crates. It'll maybe give you a bit more armor, a bit more grip. They all have their own perks. Another thing that I enjoyed quite a lot was the snapshot function. So it looks like there is a video editor and a pretty freaking rad photo editor in the game. My only complaint about the photo editor is that it doesn't give you enough control for where the camera is located. You have to go through the video editor to affect the camera's location for the photo, which was a bit of a bummer, but the photo I got is it's quite a stretch, I would say. A suspension of disbelief, let's call it. That being said, the customization for your character, I didn't see much of it in the closed beta because there weren't many options. They were locked to whatever you selected in the beginning, but it looks like you'll be able to change shirts, change gloves, change hats, racing gear, shoes, pants, all of that kind of thing, and that will tie into both types of credit that you get in the game. So you can buy credits through the PSN store, it looks like, and you'll also get like a Bitcoin type of credit for your popularity rating, but it also means that you can level up in the game whichever way you want to. You're not forced to follow a storyline and play through story missions. You can literally attack this game in any way you want to. So if you really enjoy playing with boats, go for it. Which is also another thing. The mechanics of driving each of these vehicles is so different that it makes it exciting to get into the different vehicles. In that way, I think that they've thought this through a lot more than other arcade races. It looks like the narrative for each discipline is 7 chapters. There'll be street racing 1 to 7, off-road 1 to 7, freestyle 1 to 7, pro racing 1 to 7. The timeline for the game, at least in the closed beta, it looks like maxes out at icon level 10,000. I think that's going to keep me going for most of this game's lifetime, which is cool. I'm really stoked to see this title come out. I know that I keep mentioning that it's a closed beta, and that's more just to remind myself that this isn't the finished game, this isn't the finished product. Despite that, the details that they've got in this already are amazing. I mean, the dirt sticking to your wheels when you drive, the way your shirt flaps when you're on a motorbike, those kind of little things are the details that make it stand out so much more for me. Yeah. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for listening. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up. If you thought it was shit, give it a thumbs down. Leave me a comment. Leave me some of your inputs. Tell me what you thought, if you had your hands on the closed beta codes. Otherwise, I will see you at the end of the month when the Crew 2 is finally released. Find me online, PSN, The Jacks.